Yeah, hello and welcome to Town Hall Heroes, episode number 125. We are live here at Blizzcon opening week in one of our many kind of great talent lounges. Blizzard was very gracious in giving us the space to do the show, and hopefully the audio actually sounds okay because I totally didn't check that. Production things. We've got Caldor, Dunk Train, Wolf, J-How, and many other nerds that will be swinging by throughout the day. Probably doing about an hour, maybe hour and a half show. And we are really just going to talk about BlizzCon. We've got the tissues here for NA tiers. We've got some M&Ms.
For Caldor, right? Yeah.
No, I'm done with that stuff. I told you already.
You sure?
I hated nothing more than when they put the second back into the caster room after we annihilated the first one, and I'm like, okay, I'm saved, it's gone. And then the next day I come in and there's the second back, and then it's like, no.
We have unlimited snacks here, and it's actually quite wonderful. But Caldor, coming into this event, first off, welcome to Town Hall, your first time on the show. Long overdue, I'd say.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Coming into this event, what were your expectations for North America?
That face that you made.
I was responding to Dunk, though.
Okay. Nothing, like, I had no particular expectations for the opening week, to be honest. Like, the event itself, that's something I'm really looking forward to. I knew that we would shoot like a studio gig here, but I had like no idea what exactly it would look like. I was pretty happy about the stage and everything, and the entire setup. And I think the caster rotation is also pretty cool because I prefer that you have like the casters in the analysis so that they can just like start a storyline and continue throughout the cast. In Europe so far we have done that mostly differently than that, which has its benefits as well. It's not like it is only like the one thing that has only like upsides, but I like this setup quite a lot. So.
Yeah, the stage is pretty dope. I was actually trying to set you up to throw shade at the region as a whole for the competitive scene.
I know, but I thought I would say that for a little bit later. I don't want to...
Okay, alright.
The thing is, I don't want to shit on NA because we didn't have any NA versus EU games just yet.
Not yet.
I'm going to trash you after that.
Careful.
Because, no. You're totally misunderstanding me. We're going to walk all over you. Like, that's a given. But the thing is, I want us as Western regions to still trash the Asian scene, and of course that doesn't really happen all that easily, but we have to stick together in that sense.
Pretty sure you tweeted a few times last year going into the BlizzCon finals about how EU was going to walk all over NA in the grand finals.
Yeah.
How did that go, Dunk Train?
Yeah, Dunk Train, how did that go?
I didn't watch those games actually.
We had a couple of problems back then. I definitely acknowledge that. The thing is though, what has NA done since then?
Dunk, how do you feel about the state of NA since you retired?
Trash cans.
Trash cans!
I mean, I don't know. I think overall the level of play has risen dramatically and NA has not. And I don't know why that is, but we'll see how
People
it
gotta
turns
practice. People gotta stay together as 5-man. They gotta be a 5-man roster for a long time and practice more and not fuck around.
I'm not gonna disagree with you. I mean, yeah.
Just comes out firing.
Yeah, dude.
In the houses. Who would you say that the best region is, Wolf?
I would say... I don't think I need to answer that question. It's pretty obvious.
Okay, apparently the mic's a little quiet. I'm going to try to adjust that.
Like the thing is, I've been really disappointed with North American performance here so far. I expected a little bit more. I was hoping for more, like seriously. I mean, we always banter the EU and NA stuff, and of course I'm gonna like stick up for my voice there. But I want this to be like a real fierce competition, and I want like the Western scene to grow together and make sure that we can just give like Korea a good competition. And right now, with the results that we've seen from North America so far, I just don't see that happening. And I really hope that those games were not indicative of what we're going to see heading into BlizzCon, because I just want a little bit more competition from North America there, and I'm a bit disappointed, especially from the Nile. I expected a lot more. When I saw the roster and everything, I was just like, alright, these guys, they can really make something happen here, and so far that just wasn't the case.
Their drafting was terrible, and they got punished a lot, and it was bad. When I actually had high expectations for Denial going into the first regional where they were actually as a 5-man.
Yeah.
And I even tweeted out, I was like, this team's going to win it, I'm sure. Like, I've seen these guys, they're good, they're solid, and if they're remaking this team, it means they've got passion, basically. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought when I saw this kind of X Cloud9 trio coming in. But then they didn't play so well. They improved dramatically from one regional to the next, and obviously had the roster swap, but I thought going into this they were definitely gonna look way better than Astral, but at this point I'd say Astral looks better than them. And,
For sure.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
You thought Denial was going to look better than Astral?
Yeah. I thought they were going to put the time in. I already saw like improvement from one regional next. I thought that was going to kind of continue along the same trend. Defending BlizzCon champions, how cool it'd be to have NA win BlizzCon twice. And I think motivation for players and heroes right now is one of the biggest problems for especially the regions that don't successfully or don't historically have much success. Like NA and
for this year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Astral Authority on the other hand, they performed well, but they did drop the PBA, which I think is a bit of a surprise. 10% core, spoilers, yes, if you're watching this show, expect lots of spoilers. But that was a quite tense moment. But when you speak to Astral about their actual results, they say it's just that's how we do it. We always lose in the first round, and then we just come back and we win. And I don't know. At least they're in high spirits, whereas Denial, they're just kind of like, all right, we got to work harder. But I will say this, neither of the NA teams feel that they have any chance against Korea. When you speak to them, they're just on another level.
It's a complete different from what Europe currently says, because like we are screaming. I mean, Wolf of course is going to cheer for his boys, which is totally fine, and I mean with good reason. But like from the scrim results that we have from both Dig and also Fnatic, they are both confident. I mean, like both. What did I miss?
Twitch chat OP?
Sorry, I'm not. J.O., you gotta not be the class clown today, alright?
I can't.
We gotta stay focused.
I'm
can't
trying, but
read
that was
it.
a really funny comment.
Well, can I
Okay.
borrow your glasses? I can't read Twitch chat. Thanks, buddy.
Is that real? Like, what?
Holy shit, it's like a magnifying glass. This is amazing.
I can't use that.
This is actually amazing. I can read Twitch chat now. Dude, I need glasses.
Dunk's revelation.
Holy shit.
BlizzCon champion without even proper vision.
Oh my
What
is
is that? I was making a point. I was saying something.
Okay.
Alright, Calvert, please continue.
Alright, so the thing is, Europe completely accepts us Korea is superior, but they all say we can beat them. Yes, they're better, but it's not like they're unbeatable. They take them down in a lot of the scrims, and for example, a couple of strategies that was played during the practice between like Europe and Korea. Some of the Europeans said like, yeah, the first 2 times when we showed that strategy, they had no chance against us because they just didn't know how to cope with it. They still accept that the Koreans are better, but they say like we are on a level where we can beat them on a decent day. Of course, it's always a bit different when you're actually sitting in the booth and you're starting to play in front of an audience, but there is at least the possibility, that you can just like knock them out. One good punch, one good fight. We've seen it with Fnatic, also with Ballistics. The last fight could have gone either way.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a misstep that we had on the side of Smexy. Not that that lost the game, but there were like a couple of things. But overall, there's just like a chance for you to do that. And personally, I have high hopes for especially next year when we have the league going, that this is going to really just like get a lot of motivation to these teams, that it's completely going to change the practice that they are going to put in. And I feel going into 2017, next year's BlizzCon could be very, very different from what we're currently seeing already.
Even at the summer split, I mean, with
Yeah.
6 months of practice, I think we could see that. If you guys haven't read all the stuff about the next year's season, it's really good, at least for the major regions. Apparently, Reddit's deciding whether or not North America should be considered a major region at this point in time. We might be losing a seat from the Reddit police, but regardless, we do know that it's going to be very healthy having this constant league practice, because even when I look at North America and Europe in the past, we used to have the ESL Major League. And I felt when we had that consistent play, the meta became a little bit more sound. The actual roster stability between the top 5 to 6 teams was much more healthy, and I think by having a Blizzard League where it's truly reinforced by their rules, it's only but great. But speaking to just European teams, we saw Fnatic not only beat eStar, which was eStar, right? But they beat Zero Panda, and they kind of slaughtered them in game 1 at least. Game 2 was probably the best game of Heroes that we'll see in this entire tournament. We'll find out. It was really epic. But MVP Black even labeled Dignitas as the number 3 team at this event. So I think Europe is definitely poised to do well.
I mean, one of the reasons also what I feel like a team like MVP Black is labeling Dignitas as a number 3 team is because they never played against anybody else from Europe. Well, since summer, and they never played against Fnatic, for example. So of course Dignitas went to Korea, that's why they have like a bit of practice against each other, so they have knowledge there. But even MVP doesn't know all of the teams or hasn't had experience against all of the teams that are here. But that they make that statement kind of shows that they at least respect the region. And it's something that also the Chinese teams have said when we interviewed them. They actually said, okay, we are a little bit afraid, or like we are respecting Europe quite a bit because these guys are playing well. They seem to improve a whole lot, and it closes the gap, and we're not quite sure on which level they are right now. I think that's something that E-Star said in an interview, if I'm not mistaken. And against them and also against Europe Panda, it just proved to be right.
Speaking of the Chinese region, I mean, we knew that the rosters were shaky coming into the event because of the earlier disintegration of, the top 2 Chinese teams, basically. Were you guys expecting to see them get pretty much wholesale slaughtered?
No, definitely not.
I still thought they were top 6 material, both teams.
I thought so too, especially because when I was talking to the Korean players, basically during our rehearsal days when they were scrimming non-stop and everyone was scrimming, everyone scrimmed everybody, Koreans were like, damn, China's strong.
Yeah.
And everyone was talking about E-Star specifically as being really, really strong in scrims, and obviously talking about the individual skill of the players and not focusing as much on the roster swapping. But going to this event, before I talked to the Koreans, I thought, I think E-Star's not going to do that well. I think Zero will do decently, probably top 4, but I put Dignitas above them. Yeah. And once I talked to the Koreans, I was like, oh man, maybe they could make finals or something. I mean, if the Koreans are really telling me this consistently, every Korean player I talked to, but they bombed out, big time. So the Koreans are wrong, or they just really underperformed in their series.
That second group was, I feel like, extremely interesting to watch. If you watched right from the start, the first game that you got was E-Star versus Imperium. And E-Star won it with a 2-0, but they looked, I don't want to say shaky, but it really looked like Imperium could have won game 1 and should have won game 2. Made a few stupid mistakes in the end where they lost the game, but that was the moment when you really looked at it and you thought, oh my god, Imperium is better than we thought. It didn't even cross my mind that it could be just that E-Star just played this really bad. In my head it was so entrenched already, China. So I was just like, wow, Imperium is good, this group is going to be pretty interesting. Then you have the Fnatic match against PBA. We knew that PBA was good, we didn't know how well, but Taiwan traditionally was pretty decent. Super close match, super close series, and then all of a sudden you see those two going up against each other and you're like, wait a second, this group has a completely different power level than I actually thought it did, and I was shocked once we had the second games coming in.
The thing with E-Star, individually it seemed like they were all trying to make plays at the same time. They were never on the same page. It seemed like team fights, they'd be split, they'd be trying to take different approach. I mean, you could say so many different people could just come. I mean, it's like when you try and get rid of an entire region, you just simply Brexit on out of that thing.
Thanks, man.
Oh, it's funny because I entered the room and then you used the term Brexit.
Oh wow.
That's what was really funny about that.
The Brits are here.
So it's the European couch.
I'm not gonna know.
Not available.
No.
There you go.
Yeah, fine, 1 second.
Nice.
Welcome, Snitch and Claris, to all of our podcast listeners. They have joined the room. Guys, we're talking about Europe, we're talking about Korea, China, we're talking about the event in general. Speaking of Europe, Snitch, how do you feel about Astral Authority?
About Astral Authority, I think they had a very weak showing so far. I am hoping they will get it together so we can have a closer game, but I do still believe that we are the stronger team.
That was his interview voice. That was weird.
We're gonna fucking destroy them.
Can you explain to everybody why your hero pool is bigger than Kyocho's?
I mean, because I play more heroes than Kyocho does.
Yeah?
It's a pretty objective answer. I don't know.
How
We've
many
had this conversation behind closed doors 100 times. I'm just telling you, Kyocho doesn't have to play as many heroes for MVP Black.
Why is he more consistent than you?
Because he's on a Korean team.
Have you pointed out how
smug
he
didn't
looks
roll
when he's talking about
Asian.
Korea? Every single time.
I think when we were on the commentary desk, there was one point where Caldor referenced the power of Korea, and then Wolf was like,
He's beaming like a schoolgirl.
People, they need to know. They need to know.
Well,
Do you want me to
know
move
about
up
you.
slightly?
Obviously, that pride is warranted considering what the bracket looks like right now. When it comes to the winners' side, both of the Korean teams have already advanced into the playoffs, so they are out of Phase 2 when it comes to the event. And looking at what we have
the
here,
bracket, they will likely be in the finals.
So, Denial versus Zero Panda. The winner of that will face Fnatic. How do you guys feel Denial stands against Zero Panda? Because Zero Panda, game 1, they looked shaky. Like, really shaky versus Fnatic.
Game 1, they had a shit draft.
I
don't know what happened there, but that draft was just ass.
But Denial is a team that drafts really weird, and I feel like that could work well for Denial.
If by weird you mean incorrectly, terribly, and without range damage. Brutal! Even if you talk to the players, if you talk to the players about it, they're like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure, it just went wrong. I'm like, yeah, it certainly did.
Hold on.
Who drafts on Denial?
Are we talking about against?
I think they all do
Ballistics?
I'm not sure.
Are we talking about against Ballistics?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that as much. I mean, I think that they knew that they had a little bit more practice, a little bit more study to do. And a lot of times they tend to fall into this thing of doing weird stuff. I said it on the cast and everything. They just do weird stuff to try and create havoc and to force the other team to respond. The problem is Ballistics isn't a team that's going to respond to weird team fights. They'll just simply play the map. And I mean, they literally just said, okay, well, you go do that. We're just going to win the game. Literally from the minute it started. It was really awkward. And I think for Denial, that can work against other teams. Against the team like Ballistics, probably not. Especially not on Curse Hollow, where you can just ignore your opponent half the time.
Yeah.
I think Zero Panda will crush them 2-0. I don't have any expectations for Denial. Like I said, for those tuning in late and for you guys just joining on the couch, I had high expectations for Denial going into this tournament, but they
No, you didn't.
They failed big time so hard that it's it was not safe for work what we saw in the series with Ballistics. So
I mean, so far both. I mean, is it odd that MVP Black kind of played around with their food a little bit in their matches? That's not something that we typically see.
I think it was only against PBA,
laughing.
No?
Yeah.
Predominantly.
That
was Tower's game.
PBA drafted Nova. PBA went something that's a little bit unorthodox to begin with. And even if they think that's meta, I guarantee you that MVP Black was thinking, wow, they're literally just throwing this game against us, and we're gonna have fun with it. Triple Tap was very odd.
It never struck me as they were throwing. It struck me as
they're going of course throwing caution to win, even if it's a draft that they think can win.
It struck me as something like
they didn't play safe.
We need to try the wackiest, craziest thing to beat this team because nothing else is gonna work, right? So
And then that didn't work anyway.
of course.
Yeah. I was disappointed with that game particularly because I've been compiling some stats with the help of Dumb Train and some other people at this event for what Black has been able to do, what Korea has been able to do, and that gave them a significant amount of deaths and it increased the game time significantly as well. So that's really making Black not look so good on
All right,
the stats.
whoa, okay, so
Numbers don't matter. Don't worry about it.
No. Listen, we got Wolf over here tweeting out stats about MVP Black 65-0. Who do they play?
Really weak teams.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. You're tweeting out stats of them playing dumpster teams, and no offense to those teams. You're literally spouting off stats, and then they play Dignitas, and they're uh-oh, we're not as good as we think we are, and then all of a sudden, I guarantee, if you ignore the first 2 sets of them playing in group phase, which was terrible, and then they sit there and you look at teams where they actually had to play people, all of a sudden I guarantee 65-0 isn't going to happen. That we're going to win in 6 to 10 minute games against Dignitas. That's stupid.
Speaking of that series, ask him about it.
We discussed this.
That's an excellent segue. Yeah, I do that. I forgot I was here.
But the viewers weren't there, so maybe you could discuss it here at the couch, with a microphone and.
Yeah, I'll discuss it.
Oh yeah, will you?
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll discuss your drafting and how you guys got out drafted both games.
I mean, we had very differing opinions on the draft, Jay Howe and I.
We have different opinions on who won the game too.
I don't think anyone has a different opinion on that. I think it's very clear who won the game. I think it's very clear who should have won the game as well.
Should have won
Yeah,
the game.
it was very clear.
You mean the first one?
I mean the first one. I don't.
Yeah,
I think
you
the
mean
second
the
game is.
Wait, hold on. I want to get
Very
the
obviously in
The
their
thing
favor.
is I basically
I wish
DM'd
I
you
could
guys, and
I can pull it.
obviously
Oh,
there's a
sweet.
series between you and Asheville still to come, but And I'm really curious to see how that plays out. But I actually deem you guys like the only team. Like, I think that you guys stand a better chance against MVP Black than you do against Ballistics. And I think that your group, you have to go through MVP Black. Maybe I can't remember the bracket.
Yeah, we have to go through Ballistics.
You do have to go through Ballistics. So Dignitas I see as like the only like one true option out of like the remaining teams of who's going to be able to take down the Korean teams. I think you guys actually have a really good chance. Astral, if they can get on the right page, I think they could do fine. But like you guys actually played really well, so I don't want to discredit you guys. So
I have the drafts.
I do think the draft was pretty good, especially that last pick Tracer on Towers. That just seemed like it created all kinds of chaos for you guys.
The question I have for him is, do you think that you can disrupt the idea of Ballistics, the way they play? They hit 10, they're almost 5 forever, and they seem on this set path. Do you think you can, like, do you think Dignitas can actually disrupt that? Because it seems really strong when they get away with it, but if you can disrupt it, maybe you can throw them off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think Ballistics are a very unique team. They kind of, they play the game in a way that I don't think we've seen yet. They're very, very creative with the way they want to play and approach the game. I don't know who actually does their drafting. I've heard it like multiple people, like Nacho or
It seems like Soy does, but it
Noblesse
doesn't
or-
really seem like it's always him.
I don't know.
But whoever, like in scrims always, it's Nachogen who does
Right.
the drafting, so it seems like everyone kind of is involved. I think Nachogen's the last say, but Soy is the one who like throws ideas out.
I mean, whoever is the creative mind on that team is exceptional, and I
Yeah.
think it's
I
kind
think
of
it's
been
Soy.
whoever has had that hidden away has finally found the roster where they can unlock it, because they do things with picks that are so creative in the moment, and the way they move around the map and control everything. Like,
Let's talk about one of those picks that happened first with MVP Black that was really creative, I thought. So you guys played against Gul'dan. I know you guys have been working to bring Gul'dan into the meta for your games. A few NA teams have, and then we saw MVP Black doing it. I believe that was definitely Tomb.
Yeah.
They had the Tyrael, and one of the things I thought was really quite cool was the Holy Ground paired with the Horrify to really seclude a single target. And they just forced Bakery way away. I think it was JPL that got secluded with the Horrify, and then just
I think it was a theory, but
Yeah, it was
there.
there.
And I was thinking Warrior, so I guess
Yeah, they
I
were
guess-
running Mayork that game, so they had switched
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah. But yeah, like, what were your thoughts on that? And like, do you think that there's still like a lot of room for flexibility with Gul'dan? Because did you guys play Gul'dan at all?
I'm 100% sure MVP Black took Gul'dan from us. I'm 100% sure that there was a pick that they saw us play and they wanted to play it. I think he's good on some maps. I don't think he's an all-around. I don't think he's just like, like Li Ming. I don't think you could pick him whenever and he'll be fine. I think he's good on maps like Braxis and Tomb, where you can get a lot of value out of the wave clear. The Fear is amazing, obviously. Like, don't get me wrong, Horrify is an amazing ultimate, and I think it has been since he released. Like, even when he came out, I was like, Gul'dan's his ult is incredible. Like, Fear is, you can win a fight off Fear instantly. On like so many heroes, like if you can fear a cleanse the user and like a tank at the same time, you can kill almost any tank in the Fear, like with enough damage. But in terms of the hero itself, I think he lacks compared to some of the other range like Vala or Li Ming or Tychus. So I think he's only particularly good when you can get a lot of value out of the clear throughout the early game and kind of skip this part of the game where he's not super influential.
What was the
That's basically my take
second?
on Guna.
What was the second ban in that game from Dignitas?
I don't have the banner.
I think if you
Yeah.
click,
We
click the map,
banned,
okay. just click
which-
the-
Alarak.
which game is it?
Alarak was the
Free
second
one.
man.
Do you think if you ban Tyrael, you win that game?
I think we're more worried about Alarak. I don't
So-
think Tyrael counters our draft. I still disagree.
But
that
the,
Tyrael
the,
is
the idea is the sanctification every time you do the
No, I understand that, but in my mind, and I think in the mind of us going into this game, is if we trade Entomb for Sank, we win the trade. Because I think as soon as they don't have the Sank, our team fight is much stronger anyway. So if we're just trading Entomb, they blow Sank. From that moment onwards, I think we have the advantage in the fights.
It felt like that you went completely all in on that Entomb Gus that caught the three
In the final
with the
fight,
Tyrael.
yeah. I think watching over the fight, we said in the moment and we said afterwards that I think if we just keep Leoric alive, like we held
Yeah.
Rhaegar cooldowns,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but if we keep Leoric alive, they don't get 20, they're stuck in the Entomb after the Sank.
Uh,
Leoric's in front of all of them with Spectral Leech and full HP. Like, I think it's really hard for us to lose that fight if we commit to it, but we were kind of like, not. It was weird of them to be going in when they weren't 20. It was kind of like a weird situation and we just didn't respond correctly in the moment. But I think we should still win that fight regardless of how they use the thing.
So the bans you had asked about, they were actually Malfurion and Medic, which locked you guys into the they locked you guys into the Rhaegar alone.
Yeah, that was their bans. We banned Alarak.
they
second.
banned
yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. The Alaric ban, I mean, I think that's far more threatening.
Yeah, no, I think we were much more
Especially
concerned
on
about the
Twitch.
Alarak.
so
than-
scary.
What do you guys think about the medic ban? Were you thinking about running her on that? That really struck me as a bit odd.
What was their opening rotation? Must have been Tychus, Meriden.
Ariel. Yeah.
Maybe we would have got Medic. It depends how the draft plays out. I think if they... Did we last pick Rhaegar?
Yes.
If it plays out a similar way, I could see us playing Medic in that scenario, maybe. So I think the ban has weight, but I'm not sure if we would have gone it 100% or anything.
Okay.
But I do think it's possible we could have picked it, and maybe they wouldn't feel as confident going into something like Gul'dan if we had Medic.
Really back into the topic of Gul'dan, obviously very good with the lane clear. When you see the type of hero we're only going to see on Braxis and Tomb of the Spider Queen, where there's an objective where the lane clear is insanely valuable.
Sorry, what was the question?
Is he really only going to be played on maps where lane clear is essential?
I think, yeah, unless he has something changed, I think he'll stick that way. Maybe Infernal Shrines, but other than that, I think he's...
I think he did get played on Shrines.
I think Denial played him on Shrines, which we probably shouldn't count to mean anything. But, other than that, yeah.
Hey, boys.
Oh my goodness.
All right, we've got
This is
another
actually
couple.
this is fancy. I like it.
It's a great setup, right?
We've got Dreadnought and Bakery entering the room, taking
Can you even see
the
us?
theater.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
It's weird.
You could hardly see me the whole
right.
show so far.
Yeah.
Dude, that's these.
Okay. We were just talking about the viability of Gul'dan, the maps in which he excels, and basically concluded that it's primarily lane clear oriented, and yeah. So,
Yeah.
Bakery, how did you feel about the series overall versus MVP Black?
So it's like the most awkward conversation of all time.
Fucking straight in there.
Yeah.
No, I just mean the layout of the
weird.
conversation. Bakery.
Okay, so mainly positive, I'd say. I think, like, first off, that isn't a series that we were banking on winning. Our most likely plan was to obviously lose that series, although hopefully have it be at least close.
Wait, your plan was to lose the series?
Not like
Mission accomplished.
Guys, try to
Nailed it.
They
Apparently
did
that's
win.
up the mic.
Alright.
That's
So
why this
we kind of expected to lose. Would have been nice to win, but we planned around already losing, and preparing for Astral and PBA already.
So you didn't go ham. You didn't show hidden stuff. You didn't,
Yeah, no, we had a pretty good plan. Like, the plan was basically bring them to a 2-lane map where Rich wouldn't get to play many melee assassins, and Kyoto would have to play like a real hero rather than one of his crazy specialists like Tracer or Abathur.
Sure.
And I think that worked really well. Like, they looked really uncomfortable in the early game of Platoon, but we made far too many mistakes. If we played that game properly, then it would have been 14-11. But we let them get a turn in for no reason around level 10. And then we also messed up 2 fights for no reason. It's just really bad.
What's he doing?
So would you say
backer game.
would you say if you guys just tighten up your play a little bit more?
Yeah, if we tightened up the play, we had game 1, and then in game 2 as well. The early game, if you just watch what happens to our XP in the early game, just from minion waves and structures, we get absolutely screwed.
Do you want to kill him?
You offering him
He
peanuts?
can't eat that. What are you doing?
You're literally offering peanuts.
I know this is the only way how an A can beat Europe, but dude.
He's going too far.
So that's the thing, I watched back that game 1, and I could feel when Wolf watches that again, he'll just be booing, because we dumpstered MVP Black in the first 10 levels. We straight crushed
I mean,
MVP.
if you
You guys
watch
are up 10-8, right?
cast,
Yeah.
I basically said that too.
No, I did actually. Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, Wolf's so Korean biased," and you completely are. But in this one instance of this one game, you did seem to hold back quite a bit.
You know what's funny
And
to
the
me
smoke
is
smoke.
both European teams going into the winners match basically said the same thing. We would like to win this, but we are okay losing because we know we have a free win in the losers match.
Is anyone going to challenge that? I don't think so.
But it brings us back to the beginning of the show, and it's kind of sad. You need to come back. We talked about it.
Why is this happening to me?
We talked about this earlier today already. I mean, right now we have the qualifier starting for the league. There we go.
It's all on
Comeback.
Dunk.
Initiated.
I can see Dunk's head starting to bead with sweat a little under the pressure.
Here's the pitch.
We
Live
can
and
ask Twitch chat what they think
He
about
already
it.
knows what the pitch is.
No.
Arcane official team with Dunk Train as the captain. I will help build this team.
I thought Jake was going to say, I'll offer my services as a player.
We know that's not happening.
Jake's like, I'll pick Bloodlust.
Dad, you should
It'll go
start
great.
Next.
First pick me, Rhaegar, Bloodlust.
Yeah. Is that a requirement? You have to play Bloodlust every game on the team. Yeah. That would be
It's
decent.
part of the trials, actually.
Uh-huh.
You gotta beat a Korean team with Bloodlust.
If you don't pick it, you don't
Just
pass
to get on the
trial.
team.
Yeah.
You have to 1v5 a Korean team with Bloodlust Rhaegar.
Yeah. Beast Strat.
Mhm.
I mean, I just killed Sake and Hiruli when he was totally over.
Which basically means Dread is as
Which
good as
obviously
him.
means
Yeah,
we have a
that
chance.
is too.
I almost even messed it up. It was a free kill and I still almost failed it. But I mean that obviously means NA's got a good shot. So
If anyone wants to know how he failed it, Falstad was flying and he almost
Didn't
missed him with the grenade.
Yeah.
Like the
Didn't
grenade
almost
was
miss him.
almost out of range.
it was max
of,
range.
like,
See, I was
the
min
flag.
maxing like
You
the
weren't even
Wait,
close to max
it
range.
wasn't even
You were literally melee range of
He
him.
was like medium range of the
Wasn't this
Falstad.
the one you described as a free kill and wanted to go next door and ask him why he was doing it?
No, that was level 1.
No,
Oh, it was a different
level
one?
one. He literally
Level
suicides
one,
into us. And
he
we're
Yeah.
flies into us.
Yeah.
Like,
Different one, never mind.
I like that Bakery is a disembodied voice coming from Jake's face right now.
I'll add again. Fantastic.
We could move the couch so it's there.
I can be
Nah.
dumb trained.
I don't
Know
think so.
and food.
Yeah?
I can't.
Can I have Dread's hair?
That chair's
Like
sticking
that,
to the
dude.
couch.
I can have dread hair. Oh my god, I just want Super Saiyan
Eight,
people.
right?
Oh, that looks excellent.
That's jeez.
Okay, I'm
Where?
gonna do him.
They think.
Let me
Oh,
Chogo?
yes, I
Is it
did.
Chogo? There we go.
Where's he
Oh,
going? Have you abandoned Dread at the end?
Why,
It
Dread?
has.
Well,
Oh my
so
god.
have the fans.
This
the
is-
fans have abandoned your region too, man.
I
feel-
see the chat now.
You can grab my spot in 10 minutes.
There's a
I'll
few
hang
pop
out
jams
and
in
go
there.
and
Hi,
get some
James Baker.
James Bacon.
food. Something like right?
Yeah.
I feel like this is a common occurrence with Bakery.
So
when he's
there-
talking to someone and then he just randomly goes off and talks
Can
to
you
someone
tell the
else.
James Baker story for everyone?
I don't even know it.
It happened.
It
happened at birth.
I just joined in. Like, I don't know.
also just
It
joined
started
in.
in the Korean boot camp where, for
Oh,
some reason, well, obviously because Bakery's always, getting himself out there and networking, we started. Theo, Jay, and
That was the first
Mene
name.
started mocking
Well,
this
no,
by
no.
introducing themselves to everyone as James
But here's
Baker.
the thing: it's not like there was networking occurring at the time. It was we got.
It was
onto,
just the concept
We
of
got onto a
networking.
flight in Abu Dhabi, and we got off a flight in Korea, and suddenly James Baker. This was happening everywhere.
So
like,
from that point
I still
onwards,
have no
now
idea.
everybody in the hero scene
So-
will introduce themselves to each other as James Baker.
There's a pet monkey or a stuffed monkey named James Baker.
There's a monkey
No,
named
no,
James.
that's his name, James.
James, okay.
That's not me.
He called it James.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure about it.
James was on the stream yesterday. He was hugging a penguin on the cam in the draft. Yeah, James was there. Yeah.
Touching. But when the Koreans, who I've never met or briefly at PAX West last year, walk up to me and go, James Baker, and shake my hand, I'm just like,
That's when the meme went international.
I'm so good. I'm like,
We spread it pretty fast here.
Yeah.
I guess I'm furry like you. We both got the chest.
It's quite sad. I feel bad for the community that hasn't been able to witness the growth of
That's
this
why we don't get
meme.
to see your
Well,
chest
no,
hair
it'd
till
be on the next
cast.
It might be in Beyond the
Yeah,
Nexus.
right.
Because
There we
truly,
go, Shane.
everybody at this event goes out of their way to introduce themselves to each other as James Baker at every time we meet each other, without fail, which is just truly a blessing on my existence.
And we got it filmed, which was really good at that point.
We did, yeah. It was
Yeah,
on Beyond the
we got-
Nexus, yeah.
Yeah. Have fun with
Hopefully
that one.
multiple
Oh, wait,
times.
the card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah.
That was good.
Oh, that was a good shot. That was.
Well played, Dread.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, if anybody is coming to BlizzCon and does happen to see Bakery
No,
Extend your hand towards
James
it.
Baker.
This is
and say James Baker,
Just James Baker.
and then you're part of this as well.
like nothing else, just James Baker.
Just James Baker. About any hero's personality, any team,
They'll get
any
it.
caster, they all know.
Yep.
And that's the
That's,
beauty of the
that's how
meme.
you can just tell someone those heroes or not. You know, if they're in the
Exactly,
It's like
yeah.
a code word.
Dude,
It's a
that's
secret
sick.
handshake.
It's like a secret handshake.
Quite literally the secret handshake.
Salmon.
I don't know. At this point,
And I thought there was like
found it.
Fnatic Salmon.
See, I've shared the salmon as well. They're all getting that.
With how many slaps?
All right,
Five.
we're going to Dread.
Oh, I heard Breeze is testing 7.
I heard
man.
6. I was on 6 already.
Oh.
I get the tough question.
One of the first matches going into BlizzCon will be Phase 2. We're in Phase 2, one of the elimination matches, and it's going to be Dignitas versus Astral Authority. I don't know if it's the number 1 match for Heroes.
I believe it is the
But I think
first
it
match.
is.
That's
Okay,
what
so
I
that's,
heard.
That's,
I'm not sure.
that's what we're going to be opening the stage with. And, you know, Astral Authority, they basically, their story that they've been saying, I invited them to come along, maybe we'll come out later, was basically, we always lose in the first round, and then we get knocked to lowers, and then we win. Do you think that they are refined enough in their play and have
No.
these drafts?
There was definitely more to that question.
I knew he wouldn't even wait for the question. It's just like, nope.
On a serious note, so like looking at Astral Authority and their performance at the international stage is, again, like we brought this up in the cast, they're most successful when they are single-handedly targeting specific people on their opponent's side, which is, we knew it was going to be a struggle watching them go at a global level, but we saw them not even attempt it against a team that has already shown that they do have specific picks that are pretty much must-have for their strategies. And if you aren't willing to do that against what many would consider at that mid-level at this stage, level of team, and one that already has the weakness that is going to be your strength, I don't know how I can put much faith in the fact that you're going against one of the only teams that gave MVP Black any form of a run for their money so far, and has the most experience internationally, which was debatably some of their excuses against losing to PPA, is they have the experience. Dig literally has the most experience internationally out of any team ever, because they're one of the few that have been at every global championship. So to think that they have the opportunity, unless they're severe cheese, I think it's a, you know, just an idealistic.
So you're saying no.
Well, I said that first.
In conclusion, bye.
Well, I think that's pretty clean cut. We talked to the Astral guys about that. They, you know, the favorites here from the panel overall. I mean, Jay, how do you have a differing opinion? Do you think that Astral has what it takes?
No, I think Dredd probably said exactly what is to be expected. I mean,
Rip and A. Moving on to the next.
no, seriously.
Right? I can get my hands behind that. Like, that's a good.
Oh,
This
boy.
Wolf Schroeder guy, I like.
Wow.
Actually, yeah, we're done.
What the?
Like,
That's
Go
pretty
on.
brutal.
So
The first part, I didn't actually read the second part.
the decider match of Group A will actually has PBA in it.
That one thing, a little bit salty about that one.
Wait, can you get a shout so I can read it?
It's right there. Oh, you're blind.
Yeah.
Dig has a lot of experience losing internationally.
Oh, these.
It's probably good to get it out of the way at the beginning of BlizzCon, right? Rather than
They
like,
do.
It's just
I help.
on home soil. Get them out of the way.
At least whoever gets knocked out then gets to enjoy the rest of the event, right?
Yeah.
That's what I came for. I
It's
came
the-
here to enjoy the rest of the event.
Well,
I got knocked out.
since we're the second thing on the stage this time around, we actually get to watch all the heroes panels.
No, you don't.
Not
Some of them
all
crash.
of them, but yeah, some of them clash. There's a
What,
few.
really?
Yeah.
Matt told me I could watch all of them.
I hate to burst your bubble, but
when you lose, you'll see whatever happens next.
Do you know Weird Al, the performing artist?
Oh, no.
he knows him personally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
personally, I know of Weird Al.
He
Good
sings,
friends,
he sings a
James
parody
Baker.
version of this tournament where
I walk up to Weird Al. James Baker.
If somebody can go up to Weird Al and go James Baker,
Oh,
best
man.
ever.
Yeah, I'd love to get Weird Al on this before it's too late.
We should
Yeah.
like casually, just like one at a time, find our way backstage. Just everybody, hey, James Baker.
We'd get kicked out.
So
I
bet a lot of people are going to see Maynard, the StarCraft 2 commentator, and think he's
Uh-oh.
Oh, we got more people.
Cut the stream! Cut the stream!
Get off!
Ooh,
Quick!
ask them the same question they asked.
Final
Oh, hold on. Let's hear your opinion now.
Hey, Jen! What do you say about Astral Chaos?
I'll say the same thing.
What'd you say?
we were just talking about
Is it
the
is
matchup.
it-
The first match
The one I actually liked didn't even show up.
versus Dignitas. How convenient!
Hey.
Wait, who did say?
Hi, Matt.
What's up?
Where did Baker go?
He's right there.
We're all James Baker.
James Baker.
James Baker.
James Baker.
What was that?
He just kept to confirm that he did not tell Bakery that he can watch all the panels. In fact, he said you can't watch any panels.
We came here especially for
I
that.
wasted either.
I know, but I like putting words in Matt's mouth.
Nice. So do I.
Welcome to the room, Astral Authority. Dreadnought just said you have absolutely no chance whatsoever versus Dignitas.
We're used to Dreadnought believing.
Oh, I mean, he said
we're
I
used
mean,
to
I'm
Dreadnought
used to that.
believing in us.
Yeah, we're used to it.
We're used to it.
Our biggest fan.
You're just
I don't think we've ever been a favorite in any match.
Didn't Dread say it, Pat?
That's not true. You were a favourite against
To
PBA.
win.
No, that was GFE.
I think you were meant to be.
Nah.
kind
The
of.
only team I've ever said to anybody deserving to win ever, and it's because I regretted it the minute I said it, was Gale Force Esports being able to go into a tiebreaker after making the role swap with Fan and then being like the most overhyped team and then failing to even make it out of groups. I was like, I don't even know if this team deserves to have a tiebreaker match. And I'm not proud of it, but that is the only time I've ever said those words, so I know it had to
I
be.
just think it's really funny you guys even have opinions about this. Like, you guys feel very strongly about, who's going to win this match. It doesn't really matter because neither will be able to touch Korea.
We're gonna have a full-on mutiny against Wolf soon.
Well,
Like,
alright.
It'll be like arms flying.
I'm going to start a vote to remove Wolf from this episode. Aye. Alright,
Can you guys, can I have a vote?
They already replaced your seat!
Can I have a vote for, if I can come back in the room?
Yes.
I like Wolf.
June is Korean. That doesn't count.
You don't count!
June appreciates
Give us
it.
10 minutes at least.
I'll just watch.
Whilst you
That's
smoke
not
Korean
what-
happy
sit down,
smile
this is
from the
quite
corner.
crazy.
Been sitting all day.
I think we've been set up.
So we don't really need to keep slamming away at the Dignitas Astral Authority matchup, but we can talk about the.
Why? Now we have Mia.
I'm not gonna, I mean, obviously they're going to feel confident. I don't know if that's going to be super compelling.
Wait a minute, Dignitas
Or a good
have to
idea.
speak.
All right. So how do you guys feel?
we haven't.
You guys,
We haven't
know?
said anything about this.
I spoke.
Oh,
It was great.
He said a little
Yeah,
bit.
he was- yeah.
He said a little bit.
But
But
it wasn't that
I
great.
mean, obviously, you guys are talking about how when you go into a lot of these events, you almost expect to just lose the first match and then come back and win it all because that's basically been the trend at the previous events. So, do you feel that that's basically the strat here at this point?
Yes.
I don't know about the strategy. I'll say that
Calculated.
our first international experience, it's been pretty tough.
That's actually a really good point. I mean,
So-
considering the global practice you guys have had or experience, and this being your first true global with everyone except for Fury, is it intimidating? And are you worried about the scope of the stage since you haven't played on a stage like that?
Intimidating, though, exciting. Now we actually have a chance to play teams. Like, we thought we were good. I mean, clearly that's not the case.
So,
We have nothing to compare ourselves against.
Yeah,
And now that
right.
there's a whole other level that we can improve and catch up to.
Yeah.
It's so much more fun to get to play against like top tier teams, even if like right now we know we have to improve a lot over the next week to get out of the group. Like obviously.
What's been the number one most surprising thing that you have to improve on?
I'm sorry for slamming the can downstream. Sorry.
Like out of all the things that you learned like in your first few days, like what do you think you would need to improve on the most?
Whatever Koreans do.
Yeah.
Basically that.
What would Korea
He didn't say a word. Like,
Yeah, the most impressive thing about them has been their synergy, speed of rotations, and the fact that every time they do something, it seems like all of them know exactly what's going to happen. Just their speed. They go in like that. And their teams have been together for a long, long time. Some of them, like MVP Black, has 2 years of experience
Yeah.
and a lot of international experience, and that's something that in NA we certainly don't have in terms of teams sticking together, and international experience is something our region is short on. And so over the next two events, we're hoping to get better from those experiences.
Looking forward to 2017, just past beyond BlizzCon. Do you think that having the league structure will be beneficial for the region as a whole? I mean, obviously, I think you guys will be able to practice more consistently at a higher level, but do you actually have hopes that there will be new players coming into North America in the scene, maybe old players returning to the pro scene? What are your expectations?
I mean, it would be pretty awesome if some of the top teams from the smaller regions could compete for the top 8 spots, and
Oh, I see. Yeah.
that would up the competition of a region a lot. I have no idea if that's allowed or even an option, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely more teams to
Scram.
Right now, NA's.
That's an awkward rule.
Like 2 teams to scrim. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Fear, are you talking there? Oh, right.
So can we jump on that topic of the league format next year helping or not helping?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so first off, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to agree it's going to make the region as an isolated region better. So NA is going to become better because of the consistent format, EU as well, most likely China, most likely Korea as well. But for me, I'm actually quite concerned that the gap between the East and the West might widen, especially with the fact that there are no times the EU or NA gets to play Korea or China apart from the mid-season brawl and the World Championship at Blizzcon.
Well, no part yet. I mean, obviously, in the event that there is more growth in heroes and more, like we have this event happening very soon, another international event happening in China, and in the event that more events like that pop up, who knows? Because from what I understand, Heroes is actually doing quite well in China presently in terms of like the popularity and the viewership and all of that, and they're feeling rather inclined to run more events. Like this is not a Blizzard event that's happening next month. That's just a Chinese event. So, you know, I think there's a big window for that to be a thing injected into the community, considering there will now only be the 2 globals rather than 3 run by Blizzard.
I think I agree with Bakery. Honestly, regardless of the quantity of international events that may or may not occur, I think having a guaranteed structured system that will help I think it will help the Korean scene more than NA or EU, like in terms of absolute skill level, right? Like I think it will increase the gap.
I think it's important to have like international events often, and that's something that we had this year. And I know a lot of people don't like that because it makes Korea look like way better than everybody else, and it makes like people who are fans of regions or whatever get really.
Oh my god! I was so scared about this scared, disembodied Korean-loving voice.
It's not cracking quite quickly.
It was Wolf the whole time.
Bad is if we have a situation where the only time we get to see international competition is once a year. Because that's or twice a year, right? But once a year is the worst, right? Like you know, that's kind of what we see in StarCraft right now. That's what we're seeing, you know, with League of Legends. And this system that we had this year allowed us 3 times a year to look at international competition. And yeah, Koreans won everything, but I think that when you look at what happened in spring, it was everyone got bodied. What happened in summer was people mostly got bodied, and people will get bodied again, make no mistake. But I feel like the gap is
Sorry,
shorter.
for a second there, I thought you were going to say that we wouldn't get bodied, but glad you clarified that Korea is still the best.
Maybe by 2030, you
I
can
think
we have to deal with every day.
is narrowed, and I mean to be totally honest, like when you ask Korean players, like, do you guys watch the West? Do you like say how they draft? They don't even know who some of you guys are, like or like what your faces look like or what your team names were.
I know they didn't know about Nexus games. They had no idea.
So like I think like to have this international competition often is important, and that's something I'm concerned about as well. Kind of on your point.
I mean, I kind of I agree that international competition is important, and I think it would be nice if we had more of it. But I don't think that just because we have instead of 3 now 2, that the gap is going to widen. I actually think the gap is going to close incredibly, and the reason is this entire system that they're building up right now is going to create an immense competition within the regions that at this point we don't really have. I mean, in Europe we have a top 3 that rotates through with Misfits, Dignitas and Fnatic, and then we have a couple of teams that are still okay and will go to the regional events. We had for a long time a very strong top 10. That isn't the case anymore. If you look the last regionals that we had, the teams were fighting to get into the 8th slot are not on the level that we were before. NA is even worse right now in that sense. They don't have that rotating top 3 that is on the same level where the competition happens. And what the league is going to create is, first of all, new teams. People that were on the verge of either going to retire or already retired are now all of a sudden like thinking, hey, I can make a living of this. Because no matter how much you love Heroes, at some point you have to make the decision, can I do this for another like year or 2? Can I actually sustain myself and live doing what I love? Or do I have to like take a job, go back to university, go back to school or whatnot? Now all of a sudden, even with that baseline money that you get, plus of course prize money and also like team salary, you can make a living quite easily of it. So you can dedicate your full time to it. That alone is already a factor that is going to increase the level. And then you have more people pushing in and a huge competition. Just check Twitter over the last 3 days since it was announced. Like Europe has already how many players coming back from retirement and saying like, hey, we're going to give the qualifier a shot. And A will be the same. I mean, like Dunk Train is coming back. We know that already. Dred is thinking about it. I mean, there you go. So I feel like it's going to increase a lot.
I think the most important thing to consider is like, because I can see all the arguments, but I think any change and adjustment that is going to be made to benefit the international scene, even not in competition, but just overall competitive heroes, Korea will always be the one that benefits the most out of it. So like, I think a lot of it is, though I may agree with the points that you bring up, there's very few steps that Blizzard could take to benefit heroes that Korea will not be the one that accelerates faster. So because of that, I no longer look at like, well, that gap may get stronger and stronger as long as it builds everyone's regions to become better overall, and that produces a healthier scene, which in the long run then may be able to close that gap. But I can almost think of no processes other than just going, we're completely neglecting every part of Korea, and then going, let's worry about the rest of the world, and be like, 2 years later, it's like, we brought back Korean heroes, like, what's going on? Like, that is like one of the only things I can see. So I agree, but and I can see where you're coming from. I still think Korea will succeed quicker and faster, but anything that helps everyone is always going to be a better choice.
But one thing, coming back to that point, and I think with a few I already talked about it, one of the reasons why Korea is always ahead of most is that they have a great infrastructure. It's very, like everything is centered around Seoul, that's where the leagues are. You have a very easy time setting up a team house there. You live together, you have consistency, and that is a huge part of it. It's not all of it, but it's a huge part of it. And when you think about how much money these players are going to get right now in these teams, if you're serious about it, even if you don't do it throughout the entire year, but it's quite easy to say, okay, part of those 100,000 that we get as a team, we will invest into a team house that you can either set up for the entire year. What are you doing? or you can set it up just like for a month or like a few weeks to boot camp. Of course, in that sense, players have to be smart enough to realize, hey, we have to invest something of that money. But if they do that, and I hope that the competition within the scene is going to become so fierce that at some point, if you want to succeed, you are forced to do it, then I think we can close the gap again. With that in mind, I think the gap is going to close. But if that doesn't happen, and people are just saying like, well, I got some money, I'm happy, then what Red said, of course, is obviously true, because Korea can still rely on the infrastructure that already exists.
Well, we'll see what happens with Korea, because we don't know what's going to happen with Korea next year, right? And that's like a little bit concerning for, if you look at like, this is really good for NA and EU, but if offline is taken away from Korea, even if the money is there, a lot of the top pros everyone watches and loves, people playing in this tournament, people played in summer, they might quit because
if OGN doesn't have
an offline league.
Do you actually think you're dodging the camera?
No, I didn't want because the mic's so close. I didn't want to be the guy who like ruins everybody's earbuds because like I do something too loud. Because he set down a can and apparently that was a problem. So I was worried about my mint grabbing noise levels.
Let's look at it from a historical perspective, though. Like from what we know and what we've been through, like StarCraft and stuff like that. Blizzard wouldn't let Korean heroes die next year.
It's not going to die,
or deteriorate to such a level that you are.
It would be more played by amateur players who are doing okay now that can now rise to the top with the gap that's left. I think the top tier pros might go to other games or just simply retire. It's hard to tell your parents when you're a young Korean kid or teenager getting towards adulthood that you're going to play a game full time. And part of the reason why Korea has this happen a lot and has some of the best players in the world is because you're in a studio with lights, live audience, and you're on television, and you're on stage. Parents are proud of that. They really like that. And if it's online, a lot of people don't like that. There's no refs. People can cheat. There's all sorts of problems with online. Kids do not like online leagues, and it's a bit concerning.
But I think the parents are going to be fine with it once their kid comes home and shows them that big check that they just got. Because let's face it, I didn't expect Blizzard to drop 100,000 on every team.
I mean,
when I heard that, I was just like, "What the hell is going on?" And I don't think they're going to sit there and say like, "Okay, and you are cool, Korea." We don't need those guys, they're good already. So I feel like they're going to drop a lot of money on them too, no matter what the system is going to look like. And with that alone, I think motivation will be there.
I think that for Korea, like for the middle of the road, like teams like First Family, Boom, those teams, they're going to be the teams that, like, if they stick together, which most likely they won't, but those players that are out there, they're going to build something from that, and they're going to be the teams to look to for Korea in the future. Now, I'm not saying every player is going to retire on these top teams, but I think a lot of them will.
But think about this for a second. The prize money in our region gets currently increased, and we expect in Korea to see something similar happen. how stupid do you have to be as a Korean player on like one of the top teams when you already make real good money through this game to when you get even more to all of a sudden say, hey, we are the best, but you know what, it's time to retire.
I'm not talking about like immediately. I just mean like in the future. Like I'm really thinking more towards the end of 2017 and going into 2018.
Okay.
So like we have to see how the system works. Again, you know, Korea is kind of the big question mark with all of this because they've announced plans for almost everything else, and Korea seems to be still, you know, figuring out what's going to happen. But I do feel like, you know, there's definitely some negative sides to this. But for the bottom tier of Korea, because this is kind of the problem of Korea, right? Top 4 is pretty solid. Bottom 4 is like, you know, I mean, they're not bad, but, you know, NA probably wrecked them even. Some of them at the bottom, they just went through qualifiers. So I think there's like,
never forget.
Yeah, never forget.
Never forget.
I mean, just to reiterate one of the things, I think not all of the viewers are aware of this, but what Wolf was alluding to with the online part during the offline part, if you look at like Europe, you look at North America, playing online is not really a big deal. But as we said before, esports in Korea is centered around Seoul, so you have like no online leagues whatsoever because you only have half an hour travel time at the most. If you live far outside, it's an hour. With the subway, all of the leagues take place in those studios, so they basically just switch the screens that they have from Heroes to StarCraft to League and whatnot, but you always have that offline experience there in the booth and with a potential audience, no matter how big it is there.
And that's very important.
That loss of prestige going from that traditional environment into an online segment, which they usually only play if they want to play cross-server tournaments, is understandable.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like a downgrade, even though prize money-wise for the players, it's an upgrade. So just depends on how you look at it.
So let's take it back away from Korea and back to the original point that me and Jed were talking about. I think the issue that I have with the system is that it's a Western clash and an Eastern clash at the same time, and then another one of the same system. So for me, if it was like first one, so after 5 weeks, it's the same system. It's Western, Eastern, NAEU.
You want them to be mixed.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second one in the season, so you have the mid-season brawl. 5 weeks after that, I want
NA Korea,
NA China.
Yeah.
I want that kind of matching. Maybe like next year we swap them again, and it's just a rotating thing. Like, I think this kind of isolation, where there's only 2 points in the year where we can really play and learn from the Korean teams, is going to be a huge issue.
I think that's really smart, but Calaris, I just want to talk to you about just like the narrative, because like traditionally when we look at a lot of other esports, oftentimes there is a big rivalry between North America and Europe, and then a big rivalry between Korea and China. And do you think that's like a compelling enough to justify this, or would you think it's just stronger in the long run to mix it up as he is suggesting?
I like the idea of what Baker is saying in terms of mixing it up, because you'll end up in the situation where NA and EU is going to be the extremely popular thing that it is or whatever, and for the most part, I mean, even still, like, Korean Heroes still really doesn't get that many viewers when it comes to the Western scene. It's only the really, like, hardcore viewers that will watch Korea. And then China, hardly any Western viewers actually watch that at all, right? Unless you're, like, studying them for stuff like this.
Even have an English cast.
Yeah, there's no...
Right,
there's no
exactly.
official
Yeah,
stream,
that
so-
in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure which, but.
Oh my god, that's you, eh?
Are you two?
Oh my
And
I never knew.
I actually do think that Bakery's idea is kind of good to have kind of every so often just different clashes or whatever. I think that would help out quite a bit in terms of getting everybody involved with everybody, as opposed to the isolation to then only meet at BlizzCon.
How would you guys feel about the clashes being more intermixed from the player's perspective?
Like Steve brings up a good
God.
point there.
Actually,
Like it's also about, like, first of all, he's talking about that visas
See
are
you, Steve, just get in here.
restricting all of that. But
Where is
another
Matt?
thing,
He might not be
What did he
allowed.
say?
that visas are also one thing to concern, and if you had an easier time with the
Yeah, it's
visas,
true.
you could set more stuff up. But talking
He
the
might not be
online
allowed, I
part,
don't
one
know.
thing that you're kind of neglecting a little bit, the time difference alone is already making that nearly impossible. Think about it, like, if you have North America and Europe, you can the time difference is actually possible, but if you all of a sudden do like NA plus also Korea, the Koreans would have to play in the middle of the night, like really at 3 a.m. or something like that. So the time difference is a massive problem with that.
The clashes are offline now.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
clashes are
but
lands.
I mean about that. I thought you were talking also about like trying to get the online stuff somehow. Like,
No, I think
No,
that's
no,
about
no,
clashes.
definitely not.
Okay, only offline.
So, So when it comes to the clashes, do you like the fact that it's NA-EU, like for both the clashes, or would you prefer it if it was like NA-Korea once in a while or NA-Europe once in a while?
I'd prefer it to mix up.
Yeah, definitely a mix-up would be nice.
So much better.
I think what we had before, like having this sort of global championship more often is like what I would prefer, because if you have, say we were like, well, we're going to do EU versus China this time and Korea versus NA, then at this current state of where teams are skill-wise, it would just not be fun to watch.
I mean,
the obvious, realistic.
The obvious reasoning is due to budget. When they're giving all these players salaries and they're investing X dollars into ensuring every team has compensation to try to bolster the talent from the ground up, and then doing an open division where Hero League is tied into that, I think it's a worthy sacrifice to cut out one global. And
I'm not even saying that like it absolutely needs to be 3, but for me like as a viewer, commentator, fan, I want to see that global competition more than I want to see the competition between the rival regions.
I mean, but that argument though, it's not fair because you put NA with any region and it's going to look bad. Like you may as well just have NA have their own clash and then all the other regions actually play the game.
To play devil's advocate to this visa thing, you still need visas for certain countries in Europe that have hard times getting over to America. It's not too big a difference compared to, say, some of the Asian teams actually getting over to these other places.
And soon it's going to be pretty difficult also for the UK guys because they will have
Brexit, boys!
like they won't be able to attend the EU events either.
We're gonna have an EU versus UK clash.
Still more competitive than anything with NA.
wow, what if UK became its own region?
Kind of true.
Wait, what?
What if UK became its own region?
It's literally
Be a disaster.
I don't think that'll be.
I'd be playing.
You're expecting to this.
I'd join their team.
How'd you guys be able to take money from Fnatic then if that was the case?
That's true. But now before I said it showed up. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the matchups here as I reload the tabs. I totally lost it. Going into Group B in Phase 2, we know that PBA is waiting in the wings for Dignitas and Astral Authority. Are you guys surprised about PBA? And are they good? Like, are they actually as good as they looked?
I think they're good. Like they've been together for quite a while. Like
You're totally addicted, dude.
I don't know if that's actually true.
We need to have an intervention.
I mean, they said they would with.
I've heard they have scrimmed against Korean teams, but I don't believe it's regular.
No, in their interview they said they screamed against Tempo Storm and MVP Black, but they said it was far and few.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a regular thing for them to be scrimming in Korea and practicing in Korea like everybody seems to believe. I think they're very much their own.
They play on the KR server.
Yeah.
They do that.
Sure,
but
that's
scrim,
actually top level. That's the top level of practice. I mean, the pros are like really hugely active on the Korean server. There's so many pros.
I'm not going to argue that, but it has ups and downs. I was Gazloed more times on Korea than any other server, which I'm not sure if that's a testament to the competitiveness of the server or not. But,
I think one thing's for sure though, they've definitely improved from summer to here. I think they've definitely stepped it up. They look a lot better, and when I look at all their players, even individually, I'm like, yeah, that was a good play. Yeah, that was a pretty good play. That was a good play, you know? So
let's go back to your Game 3 versus PBA where 10% core. June, tell me about it, baby.
I don't remember what happened.
You don't remember?
I think I erased it from my mind. Pulled out all the mistakes that we could.
Yeah, no. I remember a very interesting Void Prison, and I was like, that's not going to work. And then somebody died, and I was like, that shouldn't have worked.
Cattle and Li Ming, so they open with a Void. Cattle and Li Ming gets pretty
Kettle's the only one that didn't show up here. Is he shamed?
Oh, we're all ashamed. So if we do that core rush 100 times, it should be like 95% plus you win.
I think if you do it 5 times, I think like it was that close. Like you guys are.
I mean,
it was a big mistake that we didn't win that game. It was a lot of misplays.
At this point, Fury, are you having nightmares about Void Prisms, or is it just... no?
Or is it just like PBA in general? Do they like haunt you? Like you wake up in the middle of the night, the Zola penguin plushie is like fresh in your mind.
You walk by them in the hallway and they're just giving you the stink eye.
This is just English fans, we're sorry, we apologise.
Okay.
Okay.
In general, though, are you guys afraid of them?
No.
No.
Definitely not.
We want to play them.
Any fear of PBA?
No.
We're not afraid at all. I think I actually think Astro will be a harder game than PBA.
That's not what he said.
That's not what I said.
Well,
That's not true.
CM.
No, I've said nothing
True,
about
he is.
the difference between the skill between
Yeah, you
Astral and
didn't- you
PBA.
didn't comment on it, I don't remember. All right, well that's Group
Calvo's
A.
just mixing it.
At
Yeah.
BlizzCon. It will be Dignitas or Astral Authority playing against PBA in Group A to go forward in the bracket, and they would face MVP Black.
No. We would face Ballistics.
Yeah.
Whoever advances from this group faces Ballistics.
Okay, this is just really confusing. I see. It's just
An exciting time.
Yes. That's my matchup of the day.
I'm excited for it.
I'm sure you are.
God. Can we vote again?
I'm excited for everything from the semi-finals on.
We've got Denial versus Zero Panda round 1, and being your also NA team words. Denial Esports, do you think they're in a good state right now? I just was watching your scrims a little while ago, and just an hour ago or whatever, and they looked like they made some pretty. Again, this is scrims, but some of their positioning was a little off, a little bit aggressive, like just the raw tongues going in from Dahaka a few times. Do you feel they're in a strong state right now?
That's them. Man, I'm not gonna comment.
They didn't show
on
up,
their-
man.
I'm not gonna comment.
Denial,
on teams.
get out here. Well, that's Cawthon having no faith.
I actually think that NA will beat China in that group.
You think they will?
I think Denial will beat Zero.
Dread?
Corn camera. Shame.
Are you actually serious?
Yeah.
You think Denial will beat Zero?
I think Denial will beat Zero.
I think Zero did not look impressive personally.
Do you
And
start?
you thought Denial did though? You thought Denial was
Yeah,
more?
Denial. Whoa!
Fair play, but
You see EDG and E-Star fall out within the Chinese region, that the region as a whole suffers, and they produce teams like X Team, which then end up struggling, and then it gets even worse than the fact that E-Star pulls away, and now we have this mishmash in Zero. Like, when you watch the teams qualifying, they looked like this weird-ass hybrid of the standard Chinese five-man death ball that we're used to seeing, which was the most dominant version, to, like, you saw, like, this, oh, wait, what if we kind of split push, and it was so chaotic and panicked in a lot of ways. Like, I personally thought going into the tournament before it started, China would be the weakest region. And that's not being somebody who usually sticks behind, like, NA's so strong and awesome. Like, I just genuinely think they looked really sloppy.
So yeah, let's talk about that draft, the Zul Sylvanas draft, when they're really about Triple Warrior, looking at their previous matches. That was just not only an odd draft, but particularly odd for that team. And they got booty butt cheeks dumpstered.
That's true. What did they get?
Booty butt cheeks dumpstered.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah.
That's a scientific term.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised you aren't aware of that
Just
one.
clarifying.
Yeah.
it looked like it just didn't fit like the map as well. Like
Check it out.
everything about it was.
It also doesn't fit the style that we usually see from them. That's what struck me the most. I feel like both of the drafts that we saw from the Chinese teams were just like really weird.
Yeah.
As Red said, like they were this five-man death ball, hide in the bush and slay everything that comes your way team. And now all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we kind of want to push, but we don't play like we want. It's like,
exactly. Like,
they draft something and then they don't play the style, and what they drafted doesn't fit what they originally were known for.
it's like, I would argue, to give a European reference for anybody who doesn't watch the Chinese games, like the tiebreaker between Fnatic and Mind Sanity, when we see Mind Sanity moves, or Misfits now move towards picking Nidus Network, but literally was never split pushing. That's what it looks like when you watch China like play. It's like he would go to a lane for like a second and maybe clear a wave, maybe, and then go back to the team fight. You're like, why did you pick like split? Granted, it's an older meta, but like, why would you pick those things? And China seems to be like overly enforcing that at times. And I don't know. I think they could beat Denial. I think they could, but I wouldn't be surprised if Denial beat them.
China doesn't understand macro play, like I feel like at all, and like when we talked about the mount speed changes that patch, we asked them like, I asked them straight to their face, like, do you feel like this affects your playstyle? Does this make you weaker? And they were just like, they were like, no.
That was bizarre. That was really weird.
They were like, everyone else gets their mount speed changed too, so like, why would that affect us specifically? And I didn't ask any further questions, because at that moment I was like, oh, you don't understand your own playstyle, and like, the reason why they're going to beat Denial is because they're just mechanically better in fights, but like, if Denial can out-macro them, maybe, and do some good rotations, maybe that's how they win it.
No, so here's the thing, is Denial is a team with 3 of the 2015 World Champions on it. And that team was horrendous in scrims every single time we scrimmed them. And they're keeping that form here as well. They don't seem that impressive in scrims, apparently.
John's loving it. He loves it.
But again, they probably have cheese, and they probably play a lot better on stage, especially with a big NA audience.
Oh, absolutely.
That'll help a lot.
I have a lot of faith in them to beat a Chinese team that looked like they struggled on stage, and also has a very confusing meta.
The one thing that the Chinese still have going for them, you could see that in the last game against Fnatic. In the late game, when they move as 5, like that danger that just like is there, always to like. They just look for one kill, and with that ETC blink that they have, they just explode on one target, and if that happens, they will make that core and go for the core. And let's be quite honest, against Fnatic, that should actually have worked. So, like plays like that from the entire like Asian regions, that's something I don't know. I feel like that's where they can still like turn such a game around in the late game and then play or cater back to that style.
Can we just talk about the Fnatic 0 game on Sky Temple quickly?
Of course.
When they have the perfect setup for the go-to ending of Sky Temple, which is 2 shrines spawn, 1 on each shrine, and then you 3-man at core. And there is no play that the enemy team has if you do that correctly. And they literally open up the core rush with ETC stage diving from top shrine onto the core. I have no idea, like, what they were thinking when that happened.
Maybe it's nerves. Maybe it's just like jitters.
I think they just got overconfident, and I mean, 1% core. The call was like, yeah, they had it, right?
And the other thing is, it's like a mini game. If you watch the replay and you just follow one person, you are going to be very confused as to what they are doing for about 5 seconds of the entire thing. So, to take an example, ETC opening up with the stage dive, that's the first one. And then Mouth literally starts popping Trank and runs around the core without doing a single Moonfire or auto, and then misses 2 of his 4 Moonfires.
The worst
You
part is
miss.
that
On the court,
he misses
he just
them on
moonfires the
core.
ground.
He just
He's just like,
moonfires the
"Bug!"
ground next to the core.
the worst part is while he's running Trank, he actually moves with the 2 heavy melee assassins while his squishies are getting dove on the backline with a Li Ming. And while Trank's running, he's literally healing number 1, the 2 tankiest targets for his team, but then also completely walking away from the actual people being focused and the 2 that are going to do the most amount of damage to the core. Like one to 2 procs of Trank might have been enough to where that was game. It was like, granted,
I mean, a Moonfire and auto, it makes it game.
yeah, he had a couple missed auto situations. He did a really solid ice block. It was well timed. I've rewatched it
was
like
good
5 or
ice
6
block.
times.
I think also ETC hits Rhaegar before. The
I
last
mean,
auto is on
yeah,
Rhaegar,
his
right?
last auto is Rhaegar.
That one made me nervous to cast. It was really bad.
What was it?
That one haunts you
Wait,
forever.
Kalaris,
Yeah?
can I see a 1%
When your last
game?
swing
Oh, what a
before you go
surprise.
down, it's 1% and you hit Rhaegar, you're like, I'm never living this one down.
That was Fnatic almost did that one time. Again, Dragon Shatter, they kicked with Dragon Shatter with the Dragonite, and it resets your focus. So they were on core and they kicked it, and then Schwimpy literally double auto attacks the tank right in front, and they almost wiped the game. Like I think it's a pretty common thing that people, when they get their autos reset while looking towards the core, they're pretty common misclicks. Like I guess I'm trying to say that's not the rarest thing to see in the world.
Crazy series. Highly suggest watching it. Beyond that, I think Fnatic just really impressed. You know, that first game, they slaughtered them in game 2, although it was very close, 1% core. Still a well-deserved victory. I personally love the pacing of that match. Just, you know, the respect we saw around the boss.
Yeah.
A lot of just, you know, really beautiful positioning, and it was a great game of heroes. Like, we rarely see games of heroes that go from, you know, action to slow down thought, strategy, and then trying to outmaneuver each other to that extent. And I think it might be my favorite game I've ever watched. Like, maybe not the highest level played game ever played, but it was just fun.
It was very exciting to watch.
Yeah.
See, that's how I almost felt about the E-Star game on Infernal Shines, where it was so close to being this beautiful game where they were perfectly out-rotating and Illidan had all the split pushing.
Yeah.
And they were having a beautiful fight top where it's like 3v5 and they're poking them out beautifully, and then Li Ming blinks into 3 people and kills himself, and they lose the game. If we just forget that last part ever happened, that's so close to being my favorite game of the tournament.
I think that goes to the point that we were talking about with China, though, where they do have those moments where you're like, what happened here? Like, because they seem so good, and then you're like, everything seems to go out the window. Even on that game that was like so beautiful, the dance around Boston, everybody respecting one another, it hits a point to where Estar realizes that they can rotate top because the wave's pushing. They already have a night camp that the Sylve was willing to solo, and then they all make a flank rotation to where nobody sees them, but 3 people from Fnatic are still posturing around the boss, and then instead of looking for a gank in case anybody's on top or just like feigning and just pushing into the keep, they literally just show into the lane and then give away any advantage that they had while everybody thought they were on the boss. And it's those moments where you're like, what were you doing? Like that was so good. And then it was like, what if we just walk into the lane rather than getting this pick? And it's very confusing to see.
Dom, chat wants your input. How did you feel about that game?
Our game or
All of them.
Santa's game?
Let's summarize the event. Let's go.
What do you got? China seems stronger in scrims than in tourney. PVA, well, we made all the mistakes we could make in the entire series, but that happens day 1. Korea, as expected, and
Yeah.
So everyone's looking at me. So
Alright, can we get some Wolf input, please? Somebody use the buzzword Korea.
Do you echo Coffin in the regards to having the live event be just exciting and like you're just pumped to play in front of the stage? Is that a drive or is that a fear?
I think our team has no problem with playing in front of an audience. I think we perform well under pressure. Just not day 1 apparently.
Just not day 1.
Not day 1 or first match.
I got your back.
I think you guys are actually in an interesting position to talk about this too. Cloud9 always had like this weird identity of like, oh, we're trash online, but we're good on stage or whatever. And like, to a certain extent that was true, but that like identity got way hyped up, like beyond reason, right? And like, that's part of storytelling with the teams, but it's also part of like, that just happens. And like now you guys with the whole like lose first match, win tourney thing, like, how do you actually feel about that? Like, I know you joke about it and stuff, and it's like an interesting story to talk about or whatnot, but just coming from another team where there was like something that I felt was like kind of a dumb like thing that, you know, just got started and never stopped. Like, do you guys feel similarly, or like you like that, or?
Well, I just think that we are just better than how we performed day 1. That's why I'm confident that we'll be better day 2. Because our day 1 play didn't match like what we are at actually at the skill level. So
okay.
It's definitely annoying though, with like a clean series.
Alright, we'd like to win all of them.
Yeah.
And not be in like a position to be eliminated from losing one more series. Of course.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Wolf, on a scale of medium to intermediate, how would you see your bias towards Korea?
I obviously I live in Korea. I've casted there for
No, but on a scale of medium to intermediate.
I would say on the intermediate side.
Does that scale even make sense?
This is last night at dinner. He's like on a scale of medium to intermediate, and me and Dunker look at each other, and everybody else is just engaged in the conversation as if nothing's wrong. And I'm just looking at Dunker. Did he just say like on a scale of medium to intermediate?
Didn't that just happen again?
I did it intentionally. But like everybody's looking like, really answer the question.
So,
no.
so to answer your question, obviously a lot of people I've received a lot of mixed feedback from people at the event and also online about my.
I thought it was pretty clear.
I don't think anybody was holding back. We literally voted him off the show.
I do tell the fans this in all good fun, but historically in international competition, if you look at stats, if you look at VODs, if you look at everything else, like. Is the best team, so I'm just trying to tout facts.
This doesn't make you Korean though.
And everyone is just simply trying to state like, well, maybe, or it could be, or it's possible. You know, there's like maybe it could happen. Like, you know, they want like angels in the outfield. They want a Disney movie, but like this isn't a fantasy. Okay, this isn't a romance novel. This is real life. And
how's StarCraft been working out recently?
Oh, the bird! I'm not even mentioning that.
Wolf off the show! Did you see how unconfident he looked? Like, That's the first time we've talked
That
about
got awkward real fast.
You say the name Neeb and shivers run up and down. He starts convulsing.
Another time for a long time, but this is not that time.
He hates the fact that an American won. Even though he's American.
No, I don't.
I know.
I was really hyped.
Wait, Wolf's American? I thought it was German. Like Wolf Svoda?
It's not his real name.
American name?
There's plenty of people. There's plenty of Americans with German names. My last name is Kolinsky, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
That's American.
Okay. So Denial, Zero Panda. Zero Panda definitely doesn't look that strong. Denial
Doesn't look as strong either.
very possible that could go either way.
Oh,
They will be
probably-
facing Fnatic in the decider match to move on to playoffs. Fnatic, obviously, they're feeling fantastic, but a team that does, really ride the momentum. And I think that makes them prone to cheese in a regard if they were to lose first. But Kaldor, I mean, you're the biggest Fnatic fan in the world. You think they're just going to crush?
No, they're not just going to crush. But, I think they have what it takes. For me, the biggest question mark, and I said within the last cast, is I feel they could have a problem with playing in front of such a big audience. They are known to tilt a little bit or to get nervous.
Even with
and
the crowd?
that could happen. Huh?
But even with all the global experience they've had and all these crowds?
It's still...
All the global experience they've had. This is Fnatic's first global.
I think we've
Yeah.
Moved offline, I
say
think.
more lane.
Sorry.
They've looked better here
thinking-
than ever before, I feel.
but they
Well,
didn't have an audience yet.
Yeah.
So, they got better. I mean, experience, of course, helps, and they got better with time, and they learned to deal with it. But it's still a factor. And for them more so than for any other team, I feel. So that's why we always talk about them also riding the momentum wave. I feel like going into the first few games, they feel really confident. They also are not at all afraid, facing off against any of the American teams, but most likely will have to go up against Zero Panda again. So in that case, I'm pretty curious how that goes, because I feel Zero Panda showed teeth in game number 2. In the first one, it was more or less a stomp. But I can totally see them coming into this series, if it happens, with a completely different mindset, completely different drafts, and giving Fnatic a much bigger run for their money. So I think Fnatic is confident, but not to the level where they are saying, hey, we got this, and where they get cocky, because they know that there's a lot that can happen here. But then again, they haven't really shown a lot of their strategies just yet, so they have still quite a few strategies they want to show, and that was one of their first goals in the pre-week, to say we want to show as little as possible. We want to show we are willing to play strong stuff, but we want to keep a couple of drafts still in the back just to make sure that we can surprise an opponent.
Yeah, so Blizzcon will be on the same patch. No patches will be coming in. Maybe bug fixes, if anything. But also, Samurai will not be allowed once more as well. It'd be very weird.
What a shame.
I
love that.
No, please don't say that.
Sam, if you're listening, change your mind. Come on, let's throw some in. Let's all have a good laugh.
The wild
Just
card.
throw some in for Semi.
That's how we take Korea down. We just change the rule set like a day before.
Genius.
So that pretty much covers what we should be expecting in terms of the decider matches. Korea wait in playoffs, both the teams, Ballistics and MVP Black. But let's talk about the other regions that didn't quite make it out. I mean, I was actually quite impressed with Burning Rage, and in the event, Burning Rage was to they were saying they would financially see if they could try to move to North America, right, and then compete in the league structure, and then get those salaries and see if they could make that work. And that's a very difficult thing for them too, especially considering Typhex did have visa issues. But considering they played at this event without Typhex being their shot caller and one of their better players, I was really, really impressed with their results. And I'm curious where some of these players think that team sits.
Chad is hitting so hard on Wolf's legs, it's unbelievable.
What's wrong with his legs?
Stop kicking the table.
He kicks the table all the time.
Wolf, tuck your legs.
One guy's particularly mad.
Yeah.
I was continuously kicking it as hard as I could.
Every
time
2
you
minutes,
said
there's this
something
one guy.
about Western Hope, or how confident they are.
And he's at caps lock right now. He was slowly and steadily just increasing the rage level. I think we're going to see some pretty big meme and picture spams if Wolf continues the trend.
So, Ion.
Bye, Sam. I love you.
Bye, Sam.
Jake, can you get a straw poll going? What do people hate more? Is it Wolf's legs or his huge Korean bias?
I'm on it.
Nice.
But seriously, how does everyone feel about the upcoming Korean Grand Finals? I mean, that should be a pretty good set.
That's gonna be. You are quiet.
Isn't that done?
It was done. It was done
Wrong
when
game.
SK beat the Rocks Tigers, but
Hey, so serious, like the summer final, obviously our Korean summer final was probably on our international stage is like the best series we've ever seen. It was hype. It was awesome.
Yeah.
This one has the potential. This one has the potential to be like the best. Out of these two teams, the way they like clash, I think it'd be really cool as long as MVP Black doesn't pick our tennis.
I think that it's going to be one of the best finals ever. Historically, the OGN finals have been pretty terrible.
Yeah, they have.
Usually not good at all, even though the hype is there, the stories are there. I think we now have a stable meta like forming during this event, and at the last finals, it was just like, who knows what's going to happen.
Every OGM final, do you think MVP Black almost defeats themselves? Because they always go in with some weird ass draft every single time.
I do,
and then
I
it's
do.
like
I think they oftentimes underrate their opponents. I don't think they do that anymore, but I think that's especially what happened against Tempest, and they definitely were just like not really ready for that. But I think like when you look at like their track record, they've been at every finals.
I don't even know what you're laughing about at this point.
They've
Polls up.
Polls up.
They've been in every single finals of every tournament they've ever played, but they've lost more finals than they've won.
I'm curious, before we get the results, what do you personally think what people hate more? The polls up.
Yeah, we'll check in a few
The
minutes.
bias, I imagine.
But remember that this is a very specific
audience that you
everybody watching the stream.
This is the
like,
stream audience.
It's not like we're asking,
we can
everyone in the world.
It's not like we're stood at the Blizzcon event with survey like.
We can actually influence that. We just have to kick the table a little bit and blame it on Wolf.
They can see his feet.
Wolf, what are you doing?
We can
This
cover
game
that.
sucks.
I'll straw poll that.
Anyway, so I do think they defeat themselves a lot.
Yeah.
I think they're coming into this event a little bit more practiced and studied. And I think the Korean teams are not really.
Stream can see it very, very well.
Perfect.
Right now, Wolf Legs are leading in the hatred scale of 58%.
Wow.
Matt,
I did not expect
Matt
that.
does raise a good point.
Tomorrow's win rate in Masters.
Nice.
It's medium to intermediate.
Yeah. Wolf, you mentioned the meta. You mentioned the meta, and I know it's a little awkward sometimes for like active players to talk about the meta, like especially in a tournament where the meta is forming. Like, so I mean, don't feel pressured to say anything, but like, do you think a more stable meta helps Korea? Because I think it definitely does. Like, I think the more solved the meta is, the more the fact that their play is generally stronger helps them.
Yeah,
like,
because when the meta is more solved, generally speaking, Korea plays it the best, and I think part of the strength of Korea also is large hero pools. And I think there's this one strength of Europe during stable metas as well, is players having large hero pools. But sometimes when a meta is like totally set, and everyone's trying to like look to Korea and look at their meta, not everyone can play the heroes that are required. It takes some time to adjust. Whereas Koreans, just play more, so they have larger hero pools.
But coming back to the hero pools, like we've seen Rich on Chen, and a lot of people and players have said that he was pretty darn weak on that hero. So
I would agree with that sentiment as well. I don't think he was really playing until it was meta, but I even criticized him on the desk. I was like, well, Chen was not good.
This is when going up against them, right? Is what you're saying.
Trolling.
I felt that Dignitas were the ones that just countered him very well, than him looking weak, I would say.
Here's the thing: is I feel like a lot of teams in scrims at this event are not picking things that are good into Chen.
Yeah.
Like, they are just accidentally ending up with no stuns, and then Chen is literally AFK on backline, and then casting pandas.
Yeah.
And I feel a pretty consistent issue that MVP Black have is that they don't seem to recognize when teams are playing terribly around their picks or their playstyle. Like, they actually need a team to punish them, I think, to learn from it. And this goes back to the whole meta point. I think the general rule, and I think it'll be pretty accurate, is if the meta is stable at the time of the finals, then MVP Black will win, and if it is not, then Ballistics will win. Assuming a Korea Grand Final.
I think that's actually absolutely accurate. I would agree with that 100%.
I mean, one of the sentiments that most of the teams have so far said is that they feel MVP Black, especially when it comes to individual strength of a player and his mechanics, is the superior team. But when it comes like to rotations on the map and calls, then Ballistics oftentimes is stronger than them. So, as Bakery said, I would go directly to your point. If the meta is safe and it's just like even footing, then the superiority of like the individual player just shines through. But if not, then Ballistics has a really good upper hand against it.
Is there anything strange about the meta right now? Like we've seen now.
Yeah, let me just list off my list of pocket picks.
No, yeah, that's what I was. When I said don't feel obligated to answer, but like to casters, Dahaka definitely came as a surprise. I would say, like.
Okay. I don't have a big voice because I'm not a pro player and all that stuff, but ever since they changed this level 1 talent, I've been waiting for somebody to appropriately use it. I don't think it's an every game type of pick. I don't think anything like that. It's just like we saw it, like at EU regionals, it looked like garbage. Like it was bad. And then there's been a few games here.
There were some that were really bad, but there were some that were
That's
good.
the same issue again. Like, yes, it was bad, but it was always not played by the top teams. And you oftentimes had a situation where the Haka was picked into like either a weird draft, where it made no sense to pick him as the last pick, or where it was played against a stronger opponent. Then later on, you look at the stats. Of course, they suck. But we have seen good teams now play the Haka too, and that was all of a sudden a completely different level. So,
you know, there's a place for it.
Yeah, I would.
I
agree
really
with
like
that.
the Haka game on Sky Temple.
You know what?
Like,
After
it was just really
who ran out adaptation? Which team ran out adaptation?
I believe it.
Yeah. After
I
you
believe
guys,
it was Fnatic that ran it on Sky Temple. Though it was Astral that ran it on Brexis.
Okay, the one on Brexis. After I watched you guys running that, before I thought adaptation was stupid and ridiculous, but now I feel that like that's like the go-to.
It was
after watching that because I was like, this is really causing them some problems.
Though, because like it,
of course, yeah,
it's
but
great, but like versus Zeratul, I mean, isolation is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, against Zeratul. But, like, in many other situations, I would much rather go adaptation. If I know I've got a team behind me who's willing to pursue and then have adaptation Dahaka in the middle of them, like, drawing a lot of the attention. Because it was really cool.
The other thing that, it's not even necessarily meta heroes, but, like, against double warrior comps, like, it seems like every Asian team, especially if the map's, like, not huge, is like they're going into specking into Stormbolt talent at level 1 to do more damage. Like Third Wind has not been the #1 pick in the majority of the games, and like I feel like that's just a different like strategy against some of these frontline comps to just try and help deal with like the big health pools that are coming forward.
Koreans focus the tank, like that's kind of what they do. They isolate the tank, they kill it first, and that extra talent is going to help you a lot. And team fighting the increased health, like on Second Wind, is like totally useless. And it's strong if you're going to solo lane Muradin in Hero League, but if you're playing a pro match, I just feel like the damage, even though it's it's not a massive amount of damage, but every little damage counts when you're trying to focus that tank down first so quickly. Isolating Illidan, whoever's in the front lines, whoever you're hitting with that Stormbolt, that extra damage can allow you to kill them faster, and then the back line is exposed.
You guys dipping?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, Astro, thanks for swinging by.
I'm hungry.
Yeah,
I'm hungry too.
Yeah, me too.
Hungry for some victory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I'm starving.
Be sure to follow these guys at Astro Authority on Twitter. They'll be playing at Blizzcon, looking to represent NA. And we are actually winding down here towards the end of the show because we got to go out and eat too. It's almost 9 p.m. guys, and we haven't had proper dinner.
9 p.m. No way.
It's 8:40.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
Quick thing.
What a world we live in. It flew away.
So closing thoughts on the tournament. Obviously, we see that
Baby's looking nice today.
Very dominant. China did not show up the way we expected so far. Fnatic looking quite good. I actually like a lot of the stuff Fnatic did. I thought their Leoric usage against the double tank was wonderful. The additional range on Drain Hope, the additional range on the swing, it worked very well. Top the chart. I think top damage on Leo that game. That was Athero?
It was Jay.
That was Jay?
Yep.
That was Jay.
There with the Joanna that got feared.
Right. Did I say Fnatic? I think it's Fnatic. I meant you guys.
I want to give a shout out to how nice that fair was.
We highlighted it on the replays.
Wait, did you really?
Wait a minute, Jay actually did something right on replays?
Don't say.
We already
always highlight the good things.
Somebody make a Reddit thread to balance out Jay having an ego now.
Please,
Can we get a straw poll going?
Do we get a straw poll going? Do people prefer it when J House says, let's take that back, or when he says boom?
Oh, pause that for a
I
moment.
can't read when people do at me because the red, it's just illegible. What does that say?
I can't be.
It says,
I want to see Solid Jake shuffle some of the
Solid
tissues.
The isolation with the holy ground to isolate
Yeah.
you.
So the holy ground that pushes me slightly back and then
That's going to make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Hey, what are you doing?
He wants to
my
shuffle.
God.
He's cleaning the table.
He's.
There you go.
Is this your normal job, to clean tables?
Yeah, that's what I do, man. That's kind of what you got to do after the NA players. You know, just make a mess. And
So how many what faces are we predicting?
Everywhere.
I'm predicting a fair few what
Just keep
faces.
throwing them at him.
Wow, you don't have a
No.
What was that?
you don't
What
have
are
a good
you doing?
sense for the Twitch meme
I don't know.
status.
well, this is the last
week.
this is the last show we're gonna do for Town Hall for probably a few weeks.
Couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
a
next
long
week
downtime.
is BlizzCon, and then State of the Nexus, Apple
Stay
Pride.
Nexus! So three of us here?
It's coming back! It's coming back, boys! What are you doing?
Thanks, Wolf.
What's wrong with you?
This isn't over yet, Wolf, okay?
That wasn't the
We
outro
really
music.
like to thank you guys, Jake and Doug, for coming on. State of the Nexus this week.
It was all a ruse. Imagine he changes the logo and everything.
Dude,
At the very end.
just prepared this.
We got it.
My closing thoughts are enjoy the Korea vs. Korea finals. It'll be the best series we ever have.
Is he going to play his music now? Was that going to be the thing?
As he slowly walks out of the room.
That's all.
Are you sure?
Weird time with
We've
Wolf.
got some time. If you wanna...
Korea will though. I will say Korea will.
I'm sure you
drop
will.
maps to the Korean team in the finals.
Really?
I knew that was coming.
as we're going to BlizzCon, and this is not, it's more than an esports event. It's really where Blizzard reveals all their new content, their biggest stuff. I want one thing each of you want to see, your number one thing. It can be duplicated. If someone already had said it, you can echo that. Jay, how?
Well, I gotta be for real.
Because you're at the end.
I don't know. I always get excited about new heroes. Like, and I'm sure.
Give me one you want the most.
I don't. My personal, just based on there's like 100 different theories on Reddit, right? Some Diablo 2 heroes would be really cool. Obviously, I'm a big Diablo nerd. Mephisto would be pretty awesome.
Okay, so for me, going into the announcements and stuff, I've always really wanted there to be another Terran StarCraft hero in the game. So I know that like Manx was data mined and stuff a long time ago. So if Manx was released, I'd be super hyped. That's what I want.
Bakery could.
So I'm actually really looking forward to some eventual technology making its way into the game engine, which is web kind of integration into the actual client. So having an in-game Grandmaster leaderboard, having the What's tab be like actual heroes content from around the web, maybe a lot of esports stuff as well.
That'd be cool.
I would absolutely love that.
That'd be nice.
That'd be weird. I don't know. That's a strange concept.
Red Naughty.
Mine are all the same as Bakery. I just view heroes and things, and maps, and all that is always going to happen no matter what. It's a MOBA; those things consistently like go. So when it comes to like BlizzCon announcements, I hope
It's a hero
for-
brawler.
Okay, it's a.
They started calling it a MOBA. Dunk.
What?
No, just keep going. Keep going.
No, it's just so I look forward to anything that will benefit the esports section. I think the very first thing, like we've seen, the front screen has been changed from time to time, and I think that's a nice first step. But a lot of it goes to like if you hit watch, you can have the replay and like watch yourself, like in an ideal world of a game that's happening right then, and you be the obs and you choose if you want to watch the 1v1 on top or not. So
Kubi's in the chat. Hi, Kubi.
Dunk. Kubi.
Kubi's dead.
Kubi's dead to you?
Yeah.
He's gonna be at BlizzCon.
I know he's gonna ask me to touch his lats.
What the hell just happened?
Okay then.
Can
Is
you
that
top
reference?
that?
Am I supposed to know that?
Kubi goes. He flexes.
Last
He
BlizzCon.
goes. You want to touch my lats? You want to touch my lats? He just goes up to people and just does that.
I'm like, Kubi, I don't want to touch your lats. And he just did it all day.
Don't lie, Dredd. You touched him.
No, he touched him.
I didn't
Oh.
touch his lats, I touched some.
Alright, I would really like to see the in-game draft be utilizable for esports. I think that's like actually one thing that's a big problem right now, and it holds back tournament flow and makes presenting the game much more difficult. So I think improvements in that aspect would go a long ways towards helping out Heroes Esports and making people who play the game feel more comfortable bridging that gap towards the esports. Like right now,
just yelling at Wolf. Wolf keeps kicking it. And they're like,
I didn't kick it.
I don't know what's wrong with you, Wolf, honestly.
Someone else.
Draft integration into the game where we don't have to use third-party clients would be huge. It would also lower downtime for events, just make it easier for guys like us that are producing online events a lot easier. How about you?
Drafts for esports, hero swapping in drafts for Hero League and all the other modes, and please, voice tool. We need voice communication tools for heroes so that you can finally coordinate within a team without having to write the entire essay.
Yeah.
Everything they said, and Ragnaros. I just want Ragnaros as a hero. I've wanted him for ages. That and Algalon, but that's very unlikely.
Dude, Algalon is decent.
Algalon would be sick,
that's
but
not happening.
no, that's
It's
not
not
going to happen
happening,
for a long time. Ragnaros is way more.
What is an Algalon?
Who's Algalon?
The
There
Observer?
would be a map, if anything.
You don't know
Like an
You mean
Algalon.
Ulduar? Like a Ulduar map?
No. As the map within the whatever it's called, like the antechamber thing.
What are you doing? What's wrong with you? I'm trying to explain who Algalon is. Do you want to know who Algalon is?
Sure.
Algalon's the Herald of the Titans, who's the observer that comes down and threatens the world of Azeroth with utter destruction, but then you defeat him and then stop him from sending the code to the Titans to destroy Azeroth. So it's kind of a big deal, but it's very unlikely that it'll come in, and so I have to go with Ragnaros.
Spoilers. I think the biggest thing for me is in-game draft. I do think, I think I agree with Dunk, where it kind of makes everything not flow as nicely, and I think the draft system itself, I've always been of the opinion that it would look really good as just as an esports feature. Like, I think the way when you pick a hero and it has the voice line and they appear in the middle of the screen and you see the model, like, I think it looks...
It has the name and everything.
Yeah, and it shows the player names, like, you throw team names on that and it looks great for esports, I think. Like, they could just throw an overlay over the top where they put the team names above it.
I think in-game draft is a guaranteed, pretty much.
I'm sure it is, but I would love to see it announced so
I'll
I
be
can
profoundly
stop
disappointed
not
if we
having
don't
it.
get it. My thing is basically that, but also an API. I think if you take all of that,
for
you
stats.
get an
That'd
API
help.
for stats where you can basically pull all of this data straight to a website. HOTS logs is actually true value, or whatever, where that stuff is all just directly ported into stuff. That's good for content creation. It's good for making everything direct, and also APIs can provide other cool things because presently, when this is a bit of insight for all the viewers. Oftentimes, when you guys see us at the desk and you see that the draft is done, and then we're waiting and we're talking on the desk for a while, a lot of that time that is spent waiting and sitting there is getting all the graphics ready. Those graphics where when we go in the game and it shows the player's face and the hero's name and all that stuff that slides up from the side, that's not an easy thing to execute. And in the event there was an API, a lot of that work could be automated, in my opinion. And the stage with all the different heroes that then swap behind that person, right? It's all very complex. But if that was something that could be automated via an API or something for events, that could reduce downtime even more. I think they do a great job keeping the downtime low. All things considered, because it's a monstrous
Could always be
monstrous
faster.
workload. But anything that improves that and keeps things rolling, draft will do that. But other things could be great too.
Also, for 2017, I know that they've promised, like the 100,000 per team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if they could also promise 100,000 per caster, then that would help as well. I'd like that BlizzCon.
Yeah.
What he said.
Wow. Yes.
Same.
Man, I throw Overwatch out the window, right?
How much was he joking?
I don't know.
Find out next week and stay at the Nexus.
Next month.
A big shout out
Sorry.
to everyone for coming on the show today. We're going to be doing a lot of preparation, getting ready for BlizzCon. If you are coming to BlizzCon, please say hi to any of us if you see us walking around.
James Baker?
James Baker.
James Baker to everyone.
And say James Baker. And we will see you at BlizzCon. Town Hall Heroes will not be happening this coming week. We are going to be in rehearsals. We're going down to the Anaheim Convention Center on Wednesday, our normal day, the week after, and the week after that, I will be on my honeymoon in London, so I will be out of town. Do not expect to have Town Hall Heroes until after, like, around November 23rd, I think might be the next date. So it's a bit of a
dry area, and it sucks considering that there's a lot to talk about with BlizzCon. And apologies for that. James Baker, GG.
Bye.
This is awkward.
Oh no! Fire!
You didn't have this planned? You didn't have
Kill me!